The Art of War: How to Win Anything in Life. Audiobook. Brought to you by Hyptoria. 25 centuries ago, a Chinese general wrote 13 short chapters that would become the most influential strategy guide ever created. CEOs keep it on their desks. Military academies teach it as required reading. Championship coaches study its principles. Even negotiators and entrepreneurs swear by its wisdom. But here's what makes Sun Tzu's Art of War truly remarkable. It's not really about war at all. Strip away the ancient military language, and you'll discover something extraordinary. A masterclass in strategic thinking that applies to any competitive situation you'll ever face. Whether you're leading a team, building a business, navigating office politics, or simply trying to get ahead in life, the principles in this book provide a blueprint for success. The most successful people in history understood one crucial truth. Victory belongs not to the strongest or the fastest, but to those who think strategically. They win before the competition even begins, by positioning themselves so skillfully that success becomes inevitable. Consider this famous principle. Know your opponent and know yourself, and you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This isn't military advice. It's the foundation of every successful negotiation, every smart career move, every winning business strategy. Or, this insight: supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. In today's world, this means achieving your goals so elegantly that others willingly help you succeed. The pages that follow will teach you how to position yourself for inevitable victory, when to engage and when to avoid confrontation entirely, how to turn weaknesses into strengths, and why the best strategists win without anyone realizing there was even a competition. This isn't dry academic theory. These are proven principles that have guided emperors and entrepreneurs, generals and game changers for over 2 millennia. Ready to discover why this ancient wisdom remains the ultimate guide to strategic success? The 13 chapters ahead will change how you think about every challenge you face. The foundation of strategic planning. War is not a game. It's the ultimate test of a nation's survival. When the stakes involve life or death, safety or complete destruction, no leader can afford to treat strategy carelessly. This ancient wisdom applies far beyond battlefields. It's about understanding the fundamental forces that determine success or failure in any competitive situation. Every strategic situation revolves around 5 essential elements that wise leaders must master. Think of them as the pillars that support any successful endeavor: the moral foundation, timing and circumstances, geographical advantages, leadership quality, and organizational discipline. The moral foundation means having a cause so compelling that people willingly follow you into danger. When your team truly believes in the mission, they'll push through obstacles that would stop others cold. This isn't about manipulation. It's about genuine alignment between leaders and followers. Timing and circumstances encompass all the external factors you cannot control. Seasonal changes, market conditions, political climates, and the natural rhythm of opportunities. Smart strategists work with these forces rather than against them. Geographical advantages represent your position in the competitive landscape. This includes physical location, but also market position, resource access, and structural advantages. Some positions are naturally stronger than others. Leadership quality manifests through wisdom in decision-making, authenticity in communication, genuine care for people, courage under pressure, and unwavering standards. Without these qualities, even the best strategy crumbles. Organizational discipline covers how well your systems work: clear roles, efficient communication, reliable supply chains, and smart resource allocation. Brilliant strategies fail when execution is poor. Master these 5 elements, and victory becomes predictable. Ignore them, and defeat is almost certain. When planning any strategic move, ask yourself these revealing questions. Which side has stronger moral authority? Who has more capable leadership? What advantages does each position offer? Where is discipline stronger? Which force has greater strength? Who is better trained? Which side maintains fair and more consistent rewards and consequences? These questions reveal the likely outcome before the first move is made. The ancient masters could predict victory or defeat simply by analyzing these factors. Smart leaders listen to good counsel and act on it. They succeed and should be kept in position. Those who ignore wise advice and charge ahead blindly will fail and should be removed from command. But remember, even good advice must be adapted to changing circumstances. Flexibility in execution, while maintaining clarity in principles, marks the difference between rigid thinking and strategic mastery. Adapt your methods, but never compromise your core principles. The economics of conflict. All conflict is fundamentally about deception and resource management. When you're strong, appear weak. When you're prepared to strike, seem unprepared. When you're close to your goal, make others think you're far away. When you're actually distant, create the impression of proximity. Use tempting offers to draw opponents into poor decisions. Pretend to be disorganized, then strike with devastating coordination. If opponents are secure everywhere, prepare for them everywhere. If they're stronger, avoid direct confrontation. If they're hot-tempered, provoke them into mistakes. If they think they're superior, let them grow overconfident. If they're resting, keep them busy. If they're united, find ways to divide them. Strike where they're unprepared and appear where they don't expect you. These principles of strategic surprise must never be revealed beforehand. The moment your opponents understand your methods, they become worthless. Victory belongs to those who calculate thoroughly before acting. Winners think through dozens of scenarios and prepare for multiple contingencies. Losers make few preparations and hope for the best. The more thorough your preparation, the more likely your success. Those who don't prepare at all have already chosen failure. The true cost of prolonged conflict extends far beyond obvious expenses. Consider a major campaign requiring vast resources. The direct costs of equipment and personnel, plus hidden expenses like hosting allies, maintaining supply lines, and replacing worn-out materials. These expenses drain resources at an alarming rate. When conflicts drag on, several things inevitably happen. Tools and weapons wear out, enthusiasm fades, strength gets exhausted, and treasuries empty. When you're weakened, competitors will swoop in to take advantage. Then even the wisest advisor cannot save you from the consequences. History shows us that while speed can be reckless, delay is far more dangerous. No nation has ever benefited from prolonged conflict. Only those who truly understand the costs of battle can understand how to conduct it efficiently. Skilled strategists don't waste resources on repeated efforts, and their supply systems are optimized for efficiency. Bring what you need from your base, but whenever possible, use your opponent's resources to sustain your effort. This way, your forces remain well-supplied without draining your home base. Distance creates expensive problems. Supporting remote operations impoverishes your people through heavy taxation. Meanwhile, the presence of large forces in any area drives up local prices, which drains wealth from communities. When people's resources are depleted, they face crushing tax burdens to support continued operations. Resource depletion creates a vicious cycle. Depleted communities can support less activity, which requires even higher taxation, which further weakens the economic base. Government expenses for replacing damaged equipment, vehicles, machinery, protective gear, and tools can consume enormous portions of total resources. A wise leader, therefore, prioritizes capturing enemy supplies. 1 unit of opponent resources is worth 20 units from your own supply chain. This principle of using opponent resources to strengthen your position is fundamental to sustainable success. To motivate people to peak performance, they need both emotional engagement and material incentives. When teams capture significant victories, reward the first to succeed. Replace opponent symbols with your own. Integrate captured resources with your existing assets, and treat defeated opponents well. This is called using conquered opponents to augment your own strength. A principle that turns today's enemies into tomorrow's allies. In any competitive situation, focus on victory, not on prolonged campaigns. Remember that leaders hold the fate of entire organizations in their hands. Their decisions determine whether groups prosper or face disaster. Winning through superior strategy. The supreme skill is capturing your opponent's position completely intact without having to destroy anything. Achieving total victory while preserving value is far superior to winning through destruction. It's better to convert an entire opposing organization than to destroy it. Better to win over departments, teams, or individuals than to eliminate them. Therefore, fighting and winning every battle is not the highest achievement. The highest achievement is breaking opponent resistance without fighting at all. The hierarchy of strategic excellence starts with disrupting opponent plans before they can be implemented. Next best is preventing opponents from forming strong alliances. Third is defeating opponent forces in open competition. The worst option is attacking heavily defended positions. Avoid attacking strong defensive positions whenever possible. Preparing for such attacks, developing specialized tools, creating support systems, and building appropriate capabilities takes enormous time and resources. Building enough pressure to overcome strong defenses takes even longer. Leaders who cannot control their impatience will throw their people against strong defenses, like insects against a flame. The result is devastating losses while the objective remains unconquered. Such are the disastrous effects of attacking strong positions. Skillful leaders overcome opposition without fighting, capture objectives without laying siege, and overthrow competitive positions without lengthy campaigns. They keep their forces intact while disputing for market dominance, achieving complete triumph without losing anyone. This is the method of victory through superior strategy. The mathematics of competitive advantage provide clear guidelines for different situations. When your forces outnumber opponents 10-1, surround them completely. At 5-1, attack directly. At 2-1, divide your efforts to create multiple pressures. When equally matched, you can engage in direct competition. When slightly weaker, avoid direct confrontation. When significantly outmatched, withdraw entirely. A small force may fight stubbornly, but mathematics eventually prevail. No amount of determination overcomes fundamental disadvantages in resources, position, or capability. Leadership acts as the protective barrier for any organization. When leadership is strong at all points, the organization thrives. When leadership has gaps, the organization becomes vulnerable. Leaders can bring disaster upon their organizations in 3 critical ways. First, by commanding actions without understanding whether they're actually possible. This is like demanding that people walk on water. It cripples effectiveness by asking for impossible results. Second, by trying to manage competitive situations using the same methods that work for internal operations. Competition follows different rules than cooperation, and leaders who don't understand this difference create confusion and frustration among their teams. Third, by assigning roles without considering individual capabilities or situational requirements. This destroys confidence because people see that merit and fit don't matter. When organizations become restless and distrustful, competitors will inevitably exploit these weaknesses. This is how internal problems create external vulnerabilities, making victory impossible. 5 principles guarantee victory for those who master them. Victory comes to those who know when to engage and when to avoid engagement. Timing is everything. The same action that brings success in one situation brings disaster in another. Victory comes to those who can handle both superior and inferior resources effectively. This means knowing how to maximize advantages when you're strong and minimize disadvantages when you're weak. Victory comes to those whose organizations are unified in spirit throughout all levels. When everyone truly shares the same vision and commitment, enormous power is unleashed. Victory comes to those who prepare thoroughly while waiting for opponents to make mistakes. Preparation creates opportunities. Poor preparation wastes them. Victory comes to those who have strong capabilities and freedom to use them. The best strategies fail when leaders lack either the tools or the authority to implement them. This leads to the most famous principle in all strategic thinking. Know your opponent and know yourself, and you will never fear any battle's outcome. Know yourself but not your opponent, and for every victory you will suffer a defeat. Know neither your opponent nor yourself, and you will lose every battle. This isn't just about gathering information. It's about honest assessment of relative strengths, weaknesses, motivations, and capabilities. Most failures come from self-deception about these realities. Positioning for inevitable victory. Ancient masters of strategy first made themselves undefeatable, then waited for opportunities to defeat opponents. Making yourself secure lies within your control, but opportunities to defeat opponents depend on their mistakes. Therefore, Good strategists can protect themselves from defeat, but cannot guarantee the chance to defeat others. Sometimes you must wait for the right moment, even when you know exactly how to win. This leads to an important distinction. Knowing how to achieve victory is different from being able to achieve it. Opportunity, timing, and capability must align. Security against defeat requires defensive thinking and preparation. The ability to defeat opponents requires taking initiative and seizing opportunities. Defensive thinking shows you're not yet strong enough for victory. Offensive capability demonstrates abundant strength. Masters of defense position themselves where opponents cannot reach them. Masters of offense strike from positions opponents cannot defend against. True strategic skill means both protecting yourself completely and achieving total victory when the moment is right. Recognizing obvious opportunities that everyone else can see is not the highest level of skill. Neither is fighting difficult battles and winning them through superior effort. These accomplishments, while impressive, are not the mark of true mastery. The ancients called someone a clever fighter, not just for winning, but for winning with ease. Their victories brought them neither fame for brilliance nor praise for courage, because they made victory look simple. They won by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes means conquering opponents who had already defeated themselves through poor decisions. Skillful strategists put themselves in positions where defeat becomes impossible, then recognize the exact moment when defeating opponents becomes certain. Victorious strategists win the battle before fighting it. Those destined for defeat fight first and hope to find victory afterward. The difference is preparation and positioning. True leaders cultivate moral authority and maintain disciplined organizations. This gives them the power to control outcomes rather than hoping for good fortune. Strategic method follows a logical sequence. First measurement, then estimation, then calculation, then comparison, and finally victory. Measurement depends on understanding your position. Estimation grows from measurement. Calculation builds on estimation. Comparison emerges from calculation. Victory results from accurate comparison. A strong force facing a weak one is like placing a heavy weight against a feather on a scale. The outcome is predetermined by the fundamental imbalance. When a prepared force meets an unprepared one, it's like a dam bursting and sending torrents into a deep chasm. The result is swift and overwhelming. The power of coordinated energy. Controlling large groups requires the same principles as controlling small ones. It's simply a matter of organization and clear communication systems. Leading a major operation differs from leading a small team, only in the complexity of coordination required. To ensure your entire organization can withstand pressure and remain unshaken, use both direct and indirect approaches. Make your impact devastating by understanding where opponents are strong and where they're vulnerable. In competitive situations, direct methods get you to the battle, but indirect methods win it. Indirect approaches, skillfully applied, offer unlimited possibilities. Like the forces of nature, they're inexhaustible and renewable. Think about musical notes. There are only 5 basic ones, yet their combinations create infinite melodies. There are only 5 primary colors, yet their combinations produce unlimited hues. There are only 5 fundamental tastes, yet their combinations yield endless flavors. In strategy, there are only 2 basic approaches, direct and indirect, yet their combinations create endless possibilities. They flow into each other like a circle that never ends. Who can exhaust all the ways they might be combined? Effective action moves like a powerful river that carries away everything in its path. Quality decision-making strikes like a falcon diving on its prey, swift, precise, and devastating. Good strategists build up tremendous potential energy, then release it at exactly the right moment. Energy is like drawing back a bow. Decision is like releasing the arrow. In the midst of apparent chaos and confusion, you can maintain perfect order. When everything seems disorganized, your structure can remain intact and undefeatable. What appears to be disorder might actually be perfect discipline. What looks like fear might be courage. What seems like weakness might be strength. Creating false appearances requires sophisticated organization underneath. Concealing courage under apparent timidity requires deep reserves of inner strength. Masking strength with apparent weakness depends on superior positioning. Skilled operators keep opponents constantly guessing by maintaining deceptive appearances that trigger predictable responses. They offer something tempting, and opponents move to grab it. Through careful timing and positioning, they set traps using opponent greed and predictability. Excellent leaders focus on coordinated energy rather than demanding too much from individuals. This allows them to select the right people and utilize coordinated power effectively. When leaders harness coordinated energy, their people become like rolling stones or logs. It's natural for stones and logs to remain still on flat ground and to roll when on slopes. Square objects tend to stop, but round objects keep rolling. The energy developed by well-led teams is like the momentum of a round boulder rolling down a mountainside thousands of feet high. Such is the power of properly coordinated energy. Finding and exploiting weaknesses. Whoever arrives at the competitive arena first and waits for opponents will be fresh and ready. Whoever arrives second and must hurry will be exhausted before the real competition begins. Smart competitors impose their will on opponents rather than allowing opponents to impose their will on them. By offering attractive opportunities, you can make opponents approach you on your terms. By threatening what they value, you can prevent them from getting too close. If opponents are comfortable, harass them. If they're well-supplied, cut off their supplies. If they're settled, force them to move. Appear at points they must rush to defend. Move quickly to places they don't expect you. You can travel great distances without problems if you move through areas where opponents are not present. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack undefended positions. You can ensure the safety of your defenses if you only defend positions that cannot be attacked. A strategist skilled in offense is one whose opponents never know what to defend. A strategist skilled in defense is one whose opponents never know what to attack. Such is the art of subtlety and secrecy. Through it, you learn to be invisible and inaudible, holding opponent fate in your hands. You can advance and be absolutely unstoppable if you target opponent weak points. You can retreat safely from pursuit if you move faster than opponents can follow. If you wish to force engagement, you can make opponents fight even when they're protected by strong defenses. Simply attack something they must protect. If you wish to avoid engagement, you can prevent opponents from reaching you even when your position seems exposed. Simply do something unexpected that requires their attention elsewhere. By discovering opponent positions while remaining invisible yourself, you can concentrate your forces while opponents must spread theirs. You can form unified efforts while opponents must fragment their resources. This means bringing your full strength against pieces of their strength, ensuring local superiority even when globally outnumbered. Keep your intended target secret. If opponents don't know where you plan to strike, they must prepare against attacks everywhere. When their forces are distributed in many directions, you face fewer resources at any specific point. If opponents strengthen their front, they weaken their rear. If they strengthen their rear, they weaken their front. If they strengthen their left, they weaken their right. If they strengthen their right, they weaken their left. If they try to strengthen everywhere, they become weak everywhere. Weakness comes from trying to defend against every possible attack. Strength comes from forcing opponents to make such preparations against you. When you know where and when the decisive moment will come, you can concentrate resources from great distances. But when neither time nor place is known, different parts of your organization cannot support each other effectively. How much worse when your various elements are separated by great distances. Even when opponents have numerical superiority, you can prevent them from using it effectively. Discover their plans and assess their likelihood of success. Provoke them to reveal their principles of action or inaction. Force them to show themselves, so you can identify vulnerabilities. Carefully compare opposing capabilities with your own to understand where strength is abundant and where it's lacking. The highest achievement in positioning is concealment. Conceal your true dispositions, and you'll be safe from the most sophisticated intelligence and the most brilliant analysis. What the masses cannot comprehend is how victory emerges from opponent tactics themselves. Everyone can see the methods that win battles, but no one can see the strategy from which victory evolved. Never repeat tactics that brought you previous victories. Instead, let your methods adapt to the infinite variety of circumstances you'll encounter. Strategic thinking flows like water in its natural course, running away from high places toward low ones. In competition, avoid what is strong and strike what is weak. Water shapes its course according to the ground over which it flows. Successful strategy develops in relation to the specific opponent you face. Just as water retains no constant shape, successful strategies have no fixed conditions. Those who can modify their approach based on opponent behavior and thereby achieve victory may be called naturally gifted strategists. Natural forces don't remain constant. The elements cycle through different periods of dominance. Seasons give way to each other. Days vary in length, and the moon waxes and wanes. Successful strategy must be equally adaptive and flexible. The art of movement and timing. Military operations begin when commanders receive clear direction from leadership. After assembling resources and organizing capabilities, leaders must integrate different elements before taking action. Then comes tactical maneuvering, the most difficult aspect of competitive strategy. The difficulty lies in turning indirect routes into direct advantages and converting potential problems into actual gains. Taking a longer, more circuitous route while misleading opponents about your destination and starting after them, yet arriving first, demonstrates mastery of strategic misdirection. Maneuvering with a disciplined organization brings advantages. Maneuvering with an undisciplined group creates dangers. If you mobilize your entire organization to seize an opportunity, you'll probably arrive too late. If you send only a small, fast team, you sacrifice support and resources. Order your people to travel light and move without stopping day or night, covering twice the normal distance, and you'll lose your leadership structure. The strongest will push ahead, the exhausted will fall behind, and only a fraction of your force will reach the destination. Moving at moderate speed over moderate distances, you might lose some effectiveness but retain organizational integrity. Moving slowly and carefully, most of your capability arrives intact. Organizations without adequate resources are lost. Without reliable supplies, they're lost. Without support systems, they're lost. You cannot enter alliances until you understand what partners really want. You cannot lead operations in unfamiliar territory without understanding the environment, its opportunities, obstacles, dangers, and advantages. You cannot turn environmental factors to your advantage without local knowledge and guidance. In competitive situations, practice deception, and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or distribute your efforts depends on circumstances. Let your speed be like wind, and your cohesion like a forest. In quick strikes, be like fire. In steadfast defense, be like a mountain. Let your plans be as mysterious as night, and when you move, strike like thunder. When you capture new resources, distribute benefits among your people. When you gain new territory, divide its advantages for your organization's benefit. Think carefully before making any move. Those who master strategic misdirection will succeed. This is the art of maneuvering. Ancient texts on management teach us that spoken communication doesn't carry far enough on large, active operations. Hence the need for clear signals and coordination systems. Ordinary markers cannot be seen clearly enough. Hence the need for obvious symbols and indicators. Communication systems focus everyone's attention on the same priorities. When an organization forms a unified body, it becomes impossible for the bold to advance alone or for the cautious to retreat alone. This is the art of coordinating large groups. For operations in unclear conditions, use multiple communication methods. For normal operations, use standard clear signals to influence both understanding and motivation throughout your organization. Intents can lose their spirit. Leaders can lose their clarity of thought. Energy peaks in the morning, begins to flag by midday, and by evening, focus turns toward rest and recovery. Clever leaders avoid engaging when opponent energy is high, but attack when it's low and declining. This is the art of psychological timing. Remain disciplined and calm while opponents show disorder and confusion. This is the art of maintaining composure. Position yourself near objectives while opponents are still far away. Wait comfortably while opponents struggle. Stay well-supplied while opponents lack resources. This is the art of conserving strength. Don't intercept opponents whose organization appears perfect. Don't attack forces that seem confident and well-prepared. This is the art of reading situations accurately. Established principles include: don't advance uphill against opponents. Don't oppose them when they hold the high ground. Don't pursue enemies who pretend to retreat. Don't attack forces whose morale is high. Don't take obvious bait. And don't interfere with opponents who are withdrawing voluntarily. When surrounding opponents, leave them an escape route. Don't pressure desperate opponents too hard. Such is the art of strategic movement. Adapting to changing conditions. Strategic leadership begins with receiving clear direction, assembling resources, and organizing capabilities. In difficult territory, don't establish permanent positions. Where multiple paths intersect, coordinate with allies. Don't remain in isolated positions. In confined situations, use creative solutions. In desperate positions, you must fight. Some routes must not be taken. Some opponents must not be engaged. Some objectives must not be pursued. Some positions must not be contested. And some orders must not be obeyed. Leaders who thoroughly understand the advantages of flexible tactics know how to handle their organizations effectively. Leaders who don't understand these principles might know their environment well, but cannot turn that knowledge into practical results. Students of strategy who don't understand how to vary their approaches, even if they understand basic advantages, will fail to make the best use of their people. In wise leaders' plans, considerations of both advantages and disadvantages are always balanced together. When expectations of benefit are tempered with awareness of potential problems, you may succeed in accomplishing essential objectives. When you're ready to seize advantages, even in the midst of difficulties, you may escape from misfortune. Reduce opponent effectiveness by creating problems for them. Keep them constantly busy dealing with issues you create. Use attractive diversions to make them rush toward objectives you choose. Strategic thinking teaches us to rely not on the hope that opponents won't come, but on our readiness to receive them. Depend not on the chance that they won't attack, but on making our position unassailable. 5 dangerous character flaws can destroy leaders. Recklessness leading to destruction. Cowardice leading to capture. Hot temper that can be provoked by insults. Excessive concern, with reputation that makes them sensitive to shame. And overprotectiveness toward their people that creates worry and indecision. These 5 character flaws ruin strategic effectiveness. When organizations fail and leaders fall, the cause will usually be found among these 5 dangerous traits. Let them be subjects for careful reflection. Reading the environment and opposition. Environmental awareness and opponent observation require constant attention. Move quickly through difficult terrain and stay near advantageous positions. Establish bases in strong locations with good visibility. Don't climb to high positions just to fight from them. These principles apply to operations in challenging territory. After crossing major obstacles, get well clear of them. When opponents are crossing obstacles during their advance, don't meet them in the middle. Let half their force cross, then attack. If you want to engage opponents, don't meet them near obstacles they must cross. Position yourself upstream from opponents with good visibility. Don't move upstream to meet advancing opponents. These principles apply to operations near major barriers. In treacherous terrain, your only concern should be getting through quickly without delay. If forced to operate in such areas, stay near resources and defensible positions. These principles apply to operations in unstable environments. In open level territory, take easily accessible positions with rising ground to your right and rear, so danger lies in front and safety behind. These principles apply to operations in open areas. These 4 sets of principles enabled ancient leaders to overcome multiple opponents. All organizations prefer strong positions to weak ones, and clear situations to uncertain ones. Take care of your people and establish solid foundations, and your organization will avoid most problems. This approach brings success. When you encounter strong positions, take the favorable side with protective features to your rear. This simultaneously benefits your people and uses environmental advantages. When major obstacles become dangerous due to changing conditions, wait until conditions improve. Territory with steep dangers Rushing obstacles, deep holes, confined spaces, thick entanglements, unstable ground, and hidden crevasses should be left quickly and not approached. While you avoid such places, try to get opponents to approach them. While you face toward them, let opponents have them at their backs. If your area contains hills, surrounded pools, hollow basins filled with concealment, or woods with thick undergrowth, they must be carefully searched. These are places where hidden opponents or secret observers are likely to lurk. When opponents are nearby and remain quiet, they're relying on their position's natural strength. When they stay distant and try to provoke engagement, they want you to advance toward them. If their position seems easily accessible, they're offering bait. Movement among trees means opponents are advancing. Multiple screens and thick cover mean they want to create suspicion. Rising birds indicate hidden forces. Startled animals suggest sudden attacks are coming. Dust rising in high columns indicates vehicles advancing. Dust that's low but spread over wide areas suggests infantry approach. When dust branches in different directions, it shows that groups have been sent to gather resources. Small clouds of dust moving back and forth suggest forces are establishing positions. Humble language combined with increased preparations means opponents are about to advance. Aggressive language and dramatic forward movement suggest they will retreat. When fast units emerge first and take positions on the flanks, opponents are preparing for battle. Peace offers without reliable guarantees indicate deception. Much running about with people falling into formations means the critical moment has arrived. When some advance while others retreat, it's a deception. When people lean on their weapons, they're weak from lack of food. If those sent for water drink first themselves, the organization suffers from thirst. If opponents see advantages but make no effort to secure them, their people are exhausted. Birds gathering anywhere indicate that area is unoccupied. Noise at night suggests nervousness. If there's disturbance in opponent camps, their leadership is weak. If symbols and signals keep changing, sedition is developing. If officers show anger, it means their people are weary. When opponents feed valuable resources to equipment and consume emergency supplies, and when people don't maintain normal routines, showing they won't return to normal positions, you can know they're determined to fight desperately. Small groups whispering together or speaking in subdued tones indicates discontent among regular members. Too frequent rewards suggest opponents are running out of resources. Too many punishments reveal desperate conditions. Starting with bluster, but then showing fear of your capabilities, demonstrates poor judgment. When messengers come with compliments, opponents want a truce. If opponent forces advance angrily and remain facing yours for a long time without either engaging or withdrawing, the situation requires great vigilance and careful assessment. Having no more people than opponents is sufficient. It simply means no direct attack can be made. What you can do is concentrate all available strength, watch opponents carefully, and seek reinforcements. Those who exercise no foresight but take opponents lightly are sure to be defeated by them. If people are disciplined before they become attached to you, they won't prove reliable. Unless they're reliable, they'll be useless. If, after people become attached to you, discipline isn't maintained, they'll still be useless. Therefore, people must be treated initially with humanity, but controlled through firm discipline. This is a reliable path to success. If training consistently enforces standards, the organization will be well disciplined. If not, discipline will be poor. If leaders show confidence in their people, but always insist on standards being met, benefit will be mutual. Understanding different types of terrain and situations. 6 types of terrain present different challenges: accessible ground, entangling ground, temporizing ground, narrow passes, precipitous heights, and positions far from opponents. Ground that both sides can traverse freely is called accessible. With such terrain, reach strong positions first, secure your supply lines, then engage with advantage. Ground that can be abandoned but is hard to retake is called entangling. From such positions, if opponents are unprepared, you may advance and defeat them. But if opponents are ready and you fail to defeat them, returning becomes impossible and disaster follows. When neither side gains by making the first move, the position is called temporizing. Even if opponents offer attractive opportunities, it's better not to advance, but rather to withdraw, drawing them forward. When part of their force emerges, you can attack with advantage. Regarding narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, garrison them strongly and await opponents. If opponents reach the pass first, don't follow if it's well defended, but only if it's weakly held. Regarding high positions, if you arrive first, take the elevated, well-lit spots and wait for opponents to come up. If opponents occupy them first, don't follow, but withdraw and try to draw them away. When you're positioned far from opponents and strength is equal, it's difficult to provoke engagement, and fighting brings disadvantage. These 6 principles connect with environmental factors. Leaders who reach responsible positions must study them carefully. Organizations face 6 types of disasters not arising from external causes, but from leadership failures: flight, insubordination, collapse, ruin, disorganization, and rout. When conditions are equal, if one force attacks another 10 times its size, the result will be flight. When regular members are too strong and officers too weak, the result is insubordination. When officers are too strong and regular members too weak, the result is collapse. When higher officers are angry and disobedient, engaging opponents independently from resentment before the commander can assess the situation, the result is ruin. When leadership is weak and without authority, when orders aren't clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties for officers and members, and when formations are created carelessly, the result is complete disorganization. When leaders cannot estimate opponents' strength, allow inferior forces to engage superior ones, throw weak units against powerful ones, and fail to place capable people in key positions, the result is rout. These 6 paths to defeat must be carefully noted by leaders who hold responsible positions. Natural environmental features are great allies, but the power to assess opponents, control success factors, and calculate difficulties, dangers, and distances constitutes the test of great leadership. Those who understand these things and apply their knowledge in competition will win. Those who don't understand or apply them will surely be defeated. If engaging is sure to result in victory, you must engage even if higher authority forbids it. If engaging will not result in victory, you must not engage even if higher authority commands it. Leaders who advance without seeking personal glory and retreat without fearing personal disgrace, whose only concern is protecting their organization and serving their mission well, are invaluable assets. Regard your people as your children, and they will follow you into the most dangerous situations. Look upon them as beloved family, and they will stand by you, even to death. If, however, you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, kind, but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable of maintaining order, then your people become like spoiled children, less for any serious purpose. If you know your people are ready to engage, but don't know whether opponents are vulnerable, you've achieved only half of what's needed for victory. If you know opponents are vulnerable, but don't know whether your people are ready to engage, you've achieved only half of what's needed for victory. If you know opponents are vulnerable and your people are ready, but don't know whether environmental conditions make engagement practical, you've still achieved only half of what's needed for victory. Experienced strategists, once in motion, are never confused. Once they begin operations, they're never at a loss. Hence the saying, if you know opponents and know yourself, victory will not be in doubt. If you know environmental factors and timing factors, your victory can be complete. The 9 strategic situations. Strategic thinking recognizes 9 varieties of competitive ground: dispersive ground, facile ground, open ground, intersecting ground, serious ground, difficult ground, hemmed-in ground, and desperate ground. When leaders operate in their own territory, it's dispersive ground. When they've penetrated into competitive territory, but not deeply, it's facile ground. Ground whose possession brings great advantage to either side is contentious ground. Ground where both sides have freedom of movement is open ground. Ground that forms the key to multiple connected areas, so that whoever controls it first has most of the advantage, is intersecting ground. When operations have penetrated deep into competitive territory, leaving multiple strongholds behind, it's serious ground. Terrain that's hard to traverse, forests, rough country, marshes, and difficult areas, is difficult ground. Ground reached through narrow approaches from which you can only withdraw by tortuous paths. So small opponent forces could crush large forces of yours, is hemmed-in ground. Ground where you can only survive by engaging immediately is desperate ground. Therefore, on dispersive ground, don't engage. On facile ground, don't stop. On contentious ground, don't attack if opponents arrive first. On open ground, don't try to block opponent movement. On intersecting ground, strengthen alliances. On serious ground, gather resources. On difficult ground, keep moving. On hemmed-in ground, use creative solutions. On desperate ground, fight. Ancient skillful leaders knew how to drive wedges between opponent front and rear forces, prevent cooperation between their large and small units, hinder good units from rescuing poor ones, and stop officers from rallying their people. When opponent forces were united, these leaders managed to create disorder. When it served their purposes, they advanced. When it didn't, they remained still. If asked how to cope with large, well-organized opponent forces preparing to attack, I would say, begin by seizing something your opponent values highly. Then they will respond to your initiatives. Speed is the essence of competitive advantage. Take advantage of opponent unpreparedness. Use unexpected approaches and strike where they're not defended. Principles for operations in competitive territory. The deeper you penetrate, the greater your people's solidarity becomes, and defenders cannot prevail against you. Gather resources from productive areas to supply your organization. Study your people's well-being carefully and don't overtax them. Concentrate your energy and conserve your strength. Keep your organization moving and develop plans that cannot be anticipated. Place your people in situations where there's no escape, and they will choose determined action over retreat. If they will face extreme challenges, there's nothing they cannot achieve. Officers and regular members alike will put forth their maximum effort. When people face desperate circumstances, they lose their sense of fear. If there's no place of refuge, they will stand firm. If they're in hostile territory, they will show stubborn resistance. If there's no alternative, they will fight with everything they have. Without needing to be organized, people will be constantly alert. Without being asked, they will do what's needed. Without restrictions, they will be faithful. Without giving orders, they can be trusted. Prohibit superstitious practices and eliminate doubts based on omens. Then, until the very end, no disaster need be feared. If your people aren't burdened with excessive wealth, it's not because they dislike riches. If their commitments aren't unlimited, it's not because they avoid long-term thinking. When they're ordered into challenging situations, your people may show emotion. Those sitting may weep, and those lying down may let tears flow. But once they're committed to action, they will display the courage of legendary heroes. The skillful strategist resembles a particular type of snake found in ancient mountains. Strike at its head, and you will be attacked by its tail. Strike at its tail, and you will be attacked by its head. Strike at its middle, and you will be attacked by both head and tail. Asked whether an organization can be made to imitate this snake, I would answer yes. People from traditionally opposing groups, if they're crossing dangerous territory together and caught by crisis, will help each other just as naturally as left hand helps right. Therefore, it's not enough to rely only on formal bonds and official commitments. The principle for managing an organization is to establish one standard of excellence that everyone must reach. How to make the best of both strong and weak elements? That's a question involving proper use of positioning. The skillful leader conducts the organization just as though leading a single person by the hand, whether they want to go or not. Leadership requires being quiet to ensure secrecy, upright to maintain order. Leaders must be able to keep officers and members in uncertainty through misdirection and false appearances, maintaining them in ignorance of true plans. By changing arrangements and altering plans, leaders keep opponents without definite knowledge. By shifting positions and taking indirect routes, they prevent opponents from anticipating their purposes. At critical moments, leaders act like those who have climbed to a height and then kicked away the ladder behind them. They take their people deep into competitive territory before revealing their true intentions. They eliminate retreat options and destroy comfort. Like shepherds driving flocks, they move their people in various directions and no one knows the final destination. To gather forces and bring them into challenging situations, this may be called the business of leadership. The different approaches suited to 9 varieties of ground, the advantages of aggressive or defensive tactics, and the fundamental laws of human nature. These things must be studied carefully. When operating in competitive territory, the general principle is that penetrating deeply brings unity, while penetrating only slightly means dispersion. When you leave your own secure territory and take your organization across boundaries into contested areas, you find yourself on critical ground. When there are multiple paths of communication, the ground offers intersecting opportunities. When you penetrate deeply into competitive territory, it's serious ground. When you penetrate only a little way, it's facile ground. When you have opponent strongholds behind you and narrow passages ahead, it's hemmed-in ground. When there's no place of refuge at all, it's desperate ground. Therefore, on dispersive ground, I would inspire my people with unity of purpose. On facile ground, I would ensure close connection between all parts of my organization. On contentious ground, I would hurry up support from the rear. On open ground, I would maintain vigilant attention to defenses. On intersecting ground, I would consolidate alliances. On serious ground, I would ensure continuous supply streams. On difficult ground, I would keep pushing forward along the path. On hemmed-in ground, I would block any way of retreat. On desperate ground, I would make clear to my people the necessity of total commitment. It's human nature to offer stubborn resistance when surrounded, to fight hard when there's no alternative, and to follow orders promptly when in danger. You cannot enter alliances with neighboring powers until you understand their real intentions. You're not fit to lead operations unless you're familiar with the environment, its mountains and forests, its obstacles and precipices, its marshes and swamps. You cannot turn natural advantages to your benefit unless you use local knowledge and guidance. To be ignorant of any of these 4 or 5 principles does not suit a strategic leader. When a strategic leader confronts a powerful opponent, leadership shows itself in preventing the concentration of opponent forces. Leaders overlaw their opponents so that potential allies are prevented from joining against them. Therefore, they don't strive to ally themselves with everyone, nor do they build up the power of other states. They carry out their own secret designs while keeping antagonists in awe. Thus, they can capture objectives and overthrow competitive positions. Give rewards without regard to usual rules. Issue orders without regard to previous arrangements. You will be able to handle an entire organization as though dealing with a single person. Confront your people with the action itself. Never let them know your design beforehand. When prospects are bright, show them the opportunities. Tell them nothing when the situation is gloomy. Place your organization in challenging situations and it will survive. Put it in desperate circumstances and it will emerge safely. It's precisely when a force has fallen into danger, becomes capable of striking a blow for victory. Success in competitive situations comes from carefully adapting yourself to opponent purposes. By persistently staying close to opponent flanks, you will eventually succeed in defeating their leadership. This is called the ability to accomplish objectives through pure strategic intelligence. When you take command, block frontier passages, destroy official communications, and stop the movement of all messengers. Be firm in planning sessions so you can control the situation. If opponents leave an opening, you must rush through it. Get ahead of your opponent by seizing what they value and subtly arrange to meet them at the decisive point. Walk the path defined by principles and adapt yourself to opponents until you can fight the decisive engagement. At first, show the restraint of a careful observer until opponents give you an opening. Afterward, demonstrate the speed of a running hare, and it will be too late for opponents to counter you. Strategic use of disruption. There are 5 ways of attacking with disruptive force. The first is to disrupt opponent operations at their base. The second is to disrupt their resource supplies. The third is to disrupt their supply chains. The fourth is to disrupt their equipment and materials. The fifth is to create disruption throughout opponent territory. To carry out disruptive attacks, you must have appropriate capabilities available. The resources for creating disruption should always be kept ready. There's a proper season for disruptive attacks and special timing for starting major disruptions. The proper season is when conditions are most favorable. The special timing is when natural forces support your efforts. In attacking with disruptive force, you should be prepared to meet 5 possible developments. When disruption breaks out within opponent operations, respond immediately with external pressure. If there's disruption but opponent people remain calm, wait and don't attack yet. When the force of disruption reaches its peak, follow up with direct action if practical. If not, maintain your position. If you can create disruption from outside, don't wait for it to develop internally, but deliver your action at the most favorable moment. When you start disruption, position yourself to take advantage of the results. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Forces that rise during the day last longer, but those that emerge at night soon subside. In every organization, the 5 developments connected with disruption must be understood. Timing must be calculated, and watches kept for the proper moments. Those who use disruption as an aid to competitive action show intelligence. Those who use systematic pressure as an aid gain additional strength. Through systematic pressure, opponents may be slowed, but not completely defeated. Unfortunate is the fate of those who try to win their competitive battles and succeed in their objectives without cultivating the spirit of innovation. For the result is waste of time and general stagnation. Hence the saying, enlightened leaders plan well ahead. Good strategists cultivate their resources. Don't move unless you see an advantage. Don't use your people unless there's something to be gained. Don't engage unless the position is critical. No leader should mobilize resources merely to satisfy personal feelings. No strategist should initiate competition simply out of irritation. If it's to your advantage, move forward. If not, stay where you are. Anger may in time change to satisfaction. Irritation may be followed by contentment. But an organization that has once been destroyed can never come into being again, nor can opportunities lost ever be completely recovered. Therefore, enlightened leaders are careful, and good strategists are cautious. This is the way to keep an organization at peace and capabilities intact. The strategic use of intelligence. Mobilizing large resources and moving them great distances creates heavy burdens on people and drains organizational resources. Daily expenses can be enormous. There will be disruption at home and in the field, and people will become exhausted from the effort. Hundreds of thousands of families may be affected in their daily work. Competitive forces may face each other for extended periods, striving for victory that may be decided in a single decisive moment. This being so, to remain ignorant of opponent conditions simply because you're reluctant to invest in intelligence gathering is the height of irresponsibility. Those who act this way are not true leaders, provide no real help to their organizations, and cannot master competitive victory. What enables wise leaders and good strategists to strike and conquer, achieving things beyond the reach of ordinary people, is advanced knowledge. This advanced knowledge cannot be obtained from supernatural sources, nor gained through wishful thinking, nor by theoretical calculation alone. Knowledge of opponent dispositions can only be obtained from other people. Hence the use of intelligence gathering, of which there are 5 types: local intelligence, internal intelligence, converted intelligence, expendable intelligence, and surviving intelligence. When these 5 kinds of intelligence gathering are all operating, no one can discover the complete system. This is called masterful coordination of information threads. It's leadership's most precious capability. Local intelligence means using the services of people in the area. Internal intelligence means making use of opponent insiders. Converted intelligence means gaining opponent intelligence agents and using them for your own purposes. Expendable intelligence means doing certain things openly for deception purposes and allowing your agents to know about them and report them to opponents. Surviving intelligence agents are those who bring back information from opponent territory. Therefore, no relationships in the entire organization should be more carefully maintained than those with intelligence agents. No one should be more generously rewarded. In no other area should greater secrecy be preserved. Intelligence agents cannot be effectively used without intuitive wisdom. They cannot be properly managed without fairness and integrity. Without subtle understanding, you cannot determine the truth of their reports. Be subtle. Be subtle. Use your intelligence capabilities for every kind of purpose. If secret information is revealed by an agent before the time is right, the agent must be eliminated, along with anyone who received the information. Whether the objective is to defeat an organization, capture a position, or neutralize an individual, it's always necessary to begin by learning the names of assistants, aides, gatekeepers, and guards of the person in command. Your intelligence agents must be assigned to discover these. Opponent intelligence agents who come to spy on you must be found, offered incentives, redirected, and comfortably accommodated. Thus they become converted agents available for your service. It's through information brought by converted agents that you can acquire and employ local and internal intelligence. Through their information, you can cause expendable agents to carry false intelligence to opponents. Finally, through their information, surviving agents can be used on designated occasions. The end and aim of intelligence gathering in all its 5 varieties is knowledge of opponents, and this knowledge can only be derived initially from converted agents. Therefore, it's essential that converted agents be treated with the utmost care. In ancient times, the rise of new dynasties was due to individuals who had served under previous regimes. Likewise, other great changes came through people who had worked within existing systems. Therefore, only enlightened leaders and wise strategists will use the highest intelligence capabilities of their organizations for information gathering, and thereby, they achieve great results. Intelligence agents are a most important element in competitive strategy because on them depends an organization's ability to move effectively.